Nick Symmonds, I am so happy to join you. Finally catching up with the Olympian sitting on a couch. It's amazing, but and then the YouTube scene. I think you're busier and working harder than you did when you were running around the track. What do you think?
I'd probably agree with that. It's a different kind of work. When you're a professional runner, you're working really hard for like 2 or 3 hours a day, and then you're kind of just laying around eating and watching TV. Now I have longer hours, but I never have those like really intense track sessions that make you throw up. So I think I prefer my work-life balance today than I did when I was a pro runner. But yeah, I mean, both are tough jobs for sure.
Well, what's amazing is that you continue to pursue these challenging goals, and it's fun and neat to see you racing people on the beach on YouTube, but you're still in awesome shape, man, and running a 54 in Crocs, or going into the CrossFit gym and competing against, the top girl and all that. You're maintaining a lot of competitive edge. And I know you coined that term. I think you coined that term, athletepreneur, right?
Yeah, I think I heard it somewhere, but I really was an athletepreneur as as a pro runner. I viewed myself as an entrepreneur first, and that athleticism, running around in circles was just part of what I did. Now I'm really more an entrepreneur who tries to stay in some kind of shape. I wouldn't call myself much of an athlete other than the sense that I love fitness. I don't train for anything these days. I'm not nearly as competitive as I used to be, but man, I just love working out every day. And it's not any one workout that calls to me. I love biking. I love swimming. I love lifting. I love running. And the cool thing about not training for anything in particular is that every single day I get to wake up and say, oh, okay, what kind of workout do I want to do today? Sometimes I get burnt out of CrossFit workouts and I'll just go bike. Or sometimes, I'm tired of biking or it's too cold out and I'll just go lift or run. Or, it's just, there's so many wonderful ways to work out. And for me, that workout, that daily workout, is kind of the glue that holds everything else together. So every single day, 365 days a year, you better believe I'm getting my workout in.
Well, I think that is much more healthy, and I can relate to from being in the endurance scene for so long and having, all your energy devoted to just going straight ahead in three sports and triathlon. And, I became fascinated with developing the explosive fitness, where I'm doing sprinting and high jumping and things that take 1 second instead of 8 hours. But I wonder how it kind of carries you along into the next phase of life, where now you're working hard, you're running a business, but you still have that little edge that you can play with, and then go into YouTube and make it something that's also promoting your business. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, if you watch my YouTube channel, I say that, the underlying theme is fun with fitness. And I really mean that. Like, I want to go out and have fun. I want to inspire others to have fun with their fitness, but there's always some kind of competitive or competition angle to it. But I'm not there really as the guy trying to win, the brash young 25-year-old that needs to win at all costs. I'm more of the host. I'm there just saying, hey, let's have fun. And if you get to kick the crap out of an old has-been Olympian, well, good for you. But for me, it's less about the competition and more about just having fun with fitness, staying fit, inspiring others to find, set their own fitness goals and have fun with their own fitness.
Yeah, that really comes through on the videos. You're like a natural coach, and you're so supportive and enthusiastic of the random people and the kid that shows up to all your races and gets a
Yeah.
special award at the end.
Yeah.
It must be really fun for you. Did you ever think about getting into coaching?
Yeah, I think I'm not a patient enough person for coaching. And I say that just with the absolute utmost respect for coaches. And I was blessed with some really good coaches from prep school to college to my pro years. And the one commonality that all the good coaches had was they were just extremely patient. And I know my own skill set, my own limitations. I'm just not a very patient person. And I think as I grow, I become more patient. And maybe one day I will have the prerequisite skill set to actually be a coach. But for me, if I was to coach, I wouldn't do it at the pro level. I probably wouldn't even get excited doing it at the college level. It would have to be at the prep school level. Nothing I love more than young people setting goals and then achieving them. Like when you get into cross country or track for the first time and you set a goal of, oh, I want to run my first sub 5-minute mile, which we all know is it's a good running, but it's not like kind of the equivalence of running a sub 4-minute mile. But you see that freshman or sophomore train all year and then they do it. They run sub 5 for the first time. The look on their face, the realization of just how hard work can translate into success for them, I mean, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. So you'll see a lot of my videos are interacting with high school kids. It's my favorite demographic because they're just learning how to set goals and how to achieve goals. And that huge dopamine hit to the brain when they do it, when they accomplish something that they've never accomplished before. That's my favorite demographic. If I was to ever coach, it would be at the high school level.
So why does a coach, I guess at the higher levels you might be referring to, why is patience such an important attribute?
I think patience is important at all levels, but as you get, with high school, you're herding cats, right? Like the kids are running all around. You got to be pretty patient from almost a babysitter standpoint, and in college, I think the patience then translates into how can I be patient with these kids that are being pulled in a dozen different directions? I really loved my college coach, Sam LaPre and Jimmy Bean, because they knew that I was primarily there to study, right? I got a degree in biochemistry. They knew
In
that
your case, I guess,
yeah,
most college runners are out there to run, and we're definitely going to get into your track, which was so different
yeah,
than the usual, your fellow Olympians that were the
sure.
chosen ones since freshman year. But go ahead, yeah.
I think you got to remember it's called a student athlete, not an athlete student. And I think too often we forget that. So I think academics needs to be a priority. I think having some sort of social life should be considered. Many of these student athletes or many of the athletes in general need to have a job to help pay for everything. So not every athlete's on scholarship. I wasn't on scholarship. The majority of athletes running D1 aren't on scholarship. So we have to consider as a college coach, how many directions the athlete's being pulled in any one moment. And not most, but many college coaches aren't that patient. And I think they're not very good coaches for that reason. And at the pro level, you've got to be patient with just the unrelenting drive of some athletes, and I mean that at the elite level, that it's toxic in some ways, that unrelenting drive can actually be, self-detrimental. So in every single level of the game, there's a different level of focus, a different level of distractions, and the good coaches understand that and can communicate with an athlete. And again, every athlete's different. So they're able to communicate with those athletes in an effective way. I was prone to distractions. Like I said, I was in a fraternity in college, and I loved to go out fishing on the weekends as a pro, and all the coaches were just so patient with me and understanding that for me to be the best athlete I could be on the track, I had to have these other facets to my life to blow off steam, whether that was partying at the fraternity in college or running out and fishing on the weekends, as a pro. They were always very patient with me and understanding.
Well, I think we're still going to have to wait 10 more years to realize that could be the secret to bringing out the best, and especially the elite performers, where they're going too hard, they're doing too much, they're getting injured. And I'm thinking across all sports, but especially in something that's, so grueling like a track and field event and so intense.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that was one of your secrets to success, that you were out there fishing on the weekend rather than who knows what someone was doing,
Yeah.
going and getting injured. So why is that so difficult to catch on? You think it's you're maybe from the coaching side as well as the athlete being too driven?
I think it's often from the coaching side. A coach really sets the culture on a team, and to a certain extent, the captains and the leaders of the team, but that's kind of also coming down from the coach. At the high school level, more often than not, I see a culture of laissez-faire attitudes, probably not focused enough, right? And that's fine because it's high school, right? Unless you're trying to really go get that scholarship, like high school athletics should be fun. At the pro level, I see the mistake on the exact opposite side of the spectrum. Most pros are too focused. They're too dedicated, and they just run themselves into the ground. They run themselves constantly injured, or they don't take time off like they should, and they just burn themselves out super quick. So, and I see pro coaches that are really excited about the talent and the dedication they see in their athletes, but they forget that an athlete can burn themselves out real fast. So, college, you'll often find kind of that sweet spot. And I think it's one of the reasons why our NCAA system is so phenomenally successful. You've kind of taken the top tiered high school athletes that actually have the willpower, the determination, the focus, but the college coaches, the good ones, understand that these kids are being pulled in 100 directions, and they're flexible with that. And the kids have this multifaceted life. So if they do get injured, it's not the end of the world. They go focus on their studies. and that's how life should be. The problem is when you take the top tier of those athletes that are so hyper driven and you forget that they were so successful in college because they cultivated this diverse set of interests. Oftentimes those hyper focused athletes got to where they were by being hyper focused, but then they burn out. And how many names, thousands of names I can think of really stellar NCAA athletes that fizzled out in that first year or two as a pro. It's because they forgot that they need to continue to cultivate those different facets of their life, those different interests, and to be a diverse person.
Yeah, it seems like if the coach has too much ego involved, they're kind of, too far enrolled in results as well, and they're driving the athletes too hard instead of being patient and getting that nice relationship that you always make. You go to great lengths to credit your coaching and your team. That was, all part of the big picture to nurture you along. And I especially want to talk about your track, which is so unusual because you were kind of off the 5-star ranking list out of high school, and then went to a Division III university. So I don't know what the stats are like of how many dudes went from Division III to World Championship silver medal, but tell us how that was to kind of come in through the side door, the back door of track and field.
Yeah, it is unusual. And if you look at an Olympic roster, and Team USA might have 1 or 2 Division III athletes. It's very unusual. But for me, I grew up in a little state, Idaho, so I wasn't
big state, little people.
It's a great state. I love Idaho and I go back frequently. My whole family's there. And I think it was a good place to be a prep athlete because I was able to just kind of, like you said, be patient. When I looked left and right, I wasn't, in the state of California or Texas or Florida where I was constantly comparing myself. I was winning state titles in, like 157 for 800. And I'm like, I'm awesome. I'm the best runner in Idaho. And I was, but like I didn't understand, because this was pre-internet. I didn't really understand where that put me in the national scene. I just knew I was awesome in Boise and, winning state titles in Idaho. So, I was a big fish in a small pond, and I liked that. I recognized that I needed that. So when I started looking at colleges, the thought of going to, Oregon or Texas or Florida, as much as I love those schools, I kind of recognized that I was just going to be another number on those rosters. And so when I looked at some of the smaller schools like Willamette, where I ultimately went, I met with the head coach, and the head coach at the time, Kelly Sullivan, said, Nick, at Willamette University, you're going to be a student athlete and not the other way around. And he said, if I know you want to study pre-med, if you are in labs all day and I have to come out here at 8 p.m. and turn on the lights so you can get your workout in, I'll be there holding that stopwatch. That's not something any of the D1 coaches said, right? That's something that the D3 coach said. And I'm like, yeah, that's music to my ears, because I had no idea where my career was going to go. But I knew I wanted to keep running, and I knew I wanted to study biochemistry. And it just seemed like at Willamette, that offered me the best chance to find success in both.
Wow, what a wonderful recruiting pitch right there. I mean, you can't beat that. And I also am thinking now that, being that big fish and winning that state title and building that confidence and being able to compete and excel, whereby maybe if you, had developed as a 157 guy in California, you would have been knocked out in league or something. But, allowing that confidence to build, I think that's really important, rather than constantly being surrounded by, competition that was maybe over your head at that time because the kids grew faster than you when you were 13 or 14 and all those weird things.
And I was
so
a late bloomer, I was a super late bloomer.
Yeah.
So if I was just getting my butt kicked every weekend, I might've stopped running really early on. I'm like, I guess I'm not good at this. But you're right. I was developing a love for the sport. And another Kelly Sullivanism here. He said, Nick, at Willamette, I know it's a small D3 school and you're kicking butt already. I won the NCAA title in both the 8 and the 15 my freshman year. He goes, this is what I want you to do while you're here. I want you to develop a taste for winning. I want you to become the kind of athlete that has so many tools in their chest that you can win no matter how the race goes, whether it's slow, whether it's fast, whether someone gets tripped, whether it's rainy or sunny or windy, no matter what the conditions are, you always find a way to win. And that was like my mantra in college. Like, there's nothing you can throw at me that will rattle me or prevent me from winning this race. And I think I went like 7 years from my sophomore year of high school to my senior year of college. I never lost an 800. 7 straight years without losing an 800.
Oh,
And you can imagine how many different crazy things were thrown at me during those 7 years. But I would always find a way to get to that finish line first, whatever it took. And there were some elbows and there were some panicked moments in the last 100, but I developed a taste for winning. And then when I didn't win an 800, it was like such a gut check, and it happened at the 2006 US Championships where I finished second to Kadivas Robinson. But, which is a great accomplishment, especially for some no-name D3 kid that just showed up out of nowhere. But just losing, even at that level, I was like, I have to train harder. I have to refocus. I have to find the best coach as a pro. I have to have the best sponsor, because I knew that I had to rise to the occasion if I wanted to keep winning at that level. And same thing happened when I decided I wanted to be the best in the world, or try to be the best in the world. I knew I had to just keep rising to the occasion. I did it from high school to college, from college to pro, and then from mid-tier pro to, top 2 in the world.
That's crazy, man. They turned you into a winning cyborg. They programmed your brain.
It's a mentality. Yeah.
There's going to be a bunch of people trying to copy this now, or they're gonna just sandbag them and put them in races where they win for 7 years in a row and then step on to the nationals.
Well, I will say this, winning 7 years in a row, that's a mistake. That's a coaching mistake, right? That's me not being introduced to the right competition. And I wouldn't necessarily blame my high school coach, because traveling at the prep level is very hard, especially in a big state like Idaho. Like, it just wasn't easy to travel from Boise all over the United States to chase competition. But my college coach, the head coach after Kelly left, he really messed that one up. And I would beg him, please send me to a better race. I need better competition, and he just, I don't know why he didn't do it. But, I think that you need good competition, but throwing your kids into the deep end every single weekend, like we do in California, like we do in a lot of these prep states, I don't know if that's the right call. You need to help build your athletes' confidence, and letting them just kick the crap out of some kids on a weekend in a dual meet, like that can be really good for their confidence. And confidence, cannot be understated or undervalued when it comes to distance running or mid-distance racing. Split decisions need to be made, right? In an 800, you'll make half a dozen decisions that are going to make a massive difference in whether you win or lose. And you have to practice those things. Just going out and time trialing every weekend, it's not going to teach you how to run in a pack. It's not going to teach you championship racing. You have to learn those things by doing. And being in a time trialing state like California for some kids, it's just, I don't think that's the best way to learn how to race.
Yeah, interesting. So, at a certain point, you finally, get out there and realize that you can become a pro, and then I guess thrown to the wolves and thrown in all these circumstances where it's not going to be a certain win for the gamblers in the stands are not going to cash in every single time.
Yeah.
But what's amazing, and people can watch your YouTube video talking about your time progressions, and this is where it gets kind of interesting, because there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of champions in college that hit that certain level, but then you made these ridiculous drops in your 800-meter time that are, beyond description how difficult it is to go from 151 to 148 and 148 to 146.3 and all that. So when you started getting faster and faster, and it got more and more difficult to make these incremental improvements, but you still did and got down into the, as you described, the very elite level of the world. How did that roll out? I mean, that's just, it's hard to describe, how you can get that going.
Well, one thing I'll say is, I think kids are hyper-focused on time these days. Every single time I had a big jump from, 153 to 149, or 149 to 145, or then 145 down to 144 and 142 eventually. Every single time I had a big jump, it was not in a time trialing situation. It was always in a championship scenario without rabbits, and I wasn't even thinking about time. I was literally just thinking, I have to win this race. And everybody in that race thinking that same thought push each other to those great times, right? So all my big breakthroughs never happened in a time trialing situation. They always happened in just a championship race scenario. So sometimes you just stop thinking about time and just focus on racing, and the time will come.
So you're describing that you're a gamer, man. I mean,
I
there's
am,
no other way to say it.
I would say I'm a short, stocky kid from Idaho, my strength is not in my genetic abilities. If there was one strength that I had, it was that I was a gamer. When the championship setting was there and the chips were on the table, I always found that extra, 2 or 3%. I always rose to the occasion. Maybe it's my adrenal system. Maybe it's my unrelenting ego of never wanting to lose, but when the chips were down in a championship scenario, I rose to the occasion. I think probably best seen in the 2012 Olympic finals when I ran my personal best, lifetime best of 142.9. That's an example where I run almost a full second best in a championship scenario after having already run 2 rounds. I just wanted that medal so bad, and I recognized that there were 1.5 billion people watching that race. And I just wanted to make my country proud and my family proud. And, that's what a gamer does. When that do or die moment comes, they find that little bit extra that I could never find in a time trial. And some people are fantastic at time trialing, and I really respect that skill. It's just that wasn't my skill. My skill was racing.
Yeah, I imagine you had some setup events on the circuit where there were financial incentives and rabbits, and you were fresh coming off a perfect training block where
Yeah.
you predictably would have set a PR. I'm sure you did really well on those too, but to come through in the Olympic final, and that was Rudisha in the front, right? So that was the
Yeah.
greatest 800 meters ever run. People can go look for that on YouTube also. But the fatigue factor of running the rounds and all that, I guess you were able to overcome that with your adrenal system. You're the guy with the gun to his head that's going to run a PR at the very right time.
And that's what it really felt like. I mean, metaphorically, I felt like there was this gun to my head. Like, if I don't leave it all out there, I know the kind of depression that I'll slink into, because it happened every time I lost. At a major event, if I lost, it haunted me. Like, there are people that are like, oh, I hate to lose. No, I would slink into pretty major depressions if I had a bad race or a bad season, especially, and I just, the thought of going through those depressive moments was just such a motivator to train your ass off. If I had trained as hard as I could and I raced as hard as I could, then even if I lost, at least I could get through it and come out the other end ready to tackle another season. But there's a couple races that are in my mind where I'm like, I probably didn't approach that right or didn't leave it all on the track. Nothing will haunt you more than not leaving it all on the track, right?
Well, I'm going to assume that you were ecstatic at the finish line of that Olympic final.
I wasn't.
Setting it.
No,
No?
I was pissed off.
Okay, man, this
So
guy,
pissed off.
listeners,
Yeah.
we got to say this guy's one of a kind, because I think most people crushing their PR, what is that, second fastest American of all time, coming behind the greatest run in history of that event. Oh man, that's funny, dude.
True story. I couldn't watch that race for several years. Like, I think I just watched it for the first time like a couple of years back when someone asked me to kind of like give a play-by-play. And
yeah,
I mean, it's a bittersweet moment to this day. Like, yeah, I controlled the variables that I could control, and I ran the best time I ever possibly ran by almost a full second at the Super Bowl of track and field. But I wanted a medal, and I'm still pissed off I didn't get a medal. Like, a 142.9 wins the gold medal at nearly every single Olympic Games ever, and it wasn't good enough for a medal that day. But yeah, I mean, I've come to terms with the accomplishment, and I'm proud of the accomplishment. But that was my shot. That was my shot at winning an Olympic medal. Not my only shot, but certainly my best shot. And I'm just still a little pissed off about it.
How do you feel about winning?
That's how much I hate losing,
How about the silver at the World Championships, which could be considered the culmination of your career? Are you satisfied? Or are you thinking about, you're replaying the race in your mind, wishing it was gold, or what?
That year, I think I only lost. I think that year, Mo Amon, the guy who beat me, I don't think he lost a race. At the end of the season, he was ranked number 1 and I was ranked number 2. And the rankings aren't based on the World Championships loosely, but they're based on an entire season. So I feel like that one shook out the way it was supposed to shake out. Like, he was the best that year and I was clearly number 2, and we went 1-2 at the World Championships. So that one doesn't really bother me as much. It felt right. And, and I wanted that medal so bad, and I got the medal, and so funny, it just sits in my sock drawer. Like, I don't even look at it. Like, these things that are so freaking important to us when we're young, like the kind of afterthoughts after a while. Like, I'm very proud of it. It's a huge accomplishment, but no no one out. I mean, most 99.9% of people out there, even the people that follow my career, probably don't know that I won the silver medal in 2013. Like, they know me as the goofy guy that runs around in a turtle suit, on Venice
Right.
Beach for my YouTube videos.
He's now
So,
famous for his YouTube videos
yeah.
instead of his track and field
Well,
accomplishments.
interestingly enough, so like, if I'm walking down the street and someone says, "Hey, you're Nick Symmonds," if they're my age, I'm 36. If they're my generation or a little older, I assume they know me from my pro running days. But if they're in their 20s or teens, I can almost guarantee they know me from YouTube. And so now, more often than not, if someone recognizes me, they're like, "You're the YouTube guy," and I freaking love it. I'm so ecstatic to be known as the YouTube guy, because that's where I'm at in life. Like, that is more important to me right now than the athletic stuff. I'm super glad that I gave everything I got on the track for 12 years as a pro, but it's just different priorities and different focuses, and YouTubing is such a huge passion for me right now that's where I'm throwing all my time and energy, and that's what I want to be known for.
And Nick wants to win, people. He wants the most views, record
I
breaking.
do.
So go subscribe to his channel. He's trying really hard. I think you represent a really healthy attitude, because it's all about the journey. And when you're focused as an Olympic runner, you're not there to take pictures of the basketball players at the parade. You want to win, and feeling that competitive frustration and that just amazing pouring your heart and soul into it. And then you're able to move on. I mean, Roger Bannister, the great sub 4 minute miler, he said the essence of sport, and he's talking about running track and field. He said, while you're competing, nothing else matters. And then when it's over, the best place to put it is somewhere filed away, somewhere not very important. And
I agree.
it's a tough line to to balance on. But it sounds like you've done it pretty well, especially the side where the guy's pissed that he ran one of the greatest races and didn't win a medal. That's just funny, man.
It took me 6 months. I mean, it literally took me 6 weeks after that race to be able to, like you say, file it away. And I'll say this, I was good at like pressing the reset button. So, after that race, I came home, and for 6 weeks, I didn't run a step. I drank beer every day. I went fishing every day. But like it took me a while to put that behind me, to put it in context, and to ultimately get excited about training for another season.
Yeah, that's how you regain balance.
Yeah.
If you're out running on the circuit trying to pick up a new PR based on your fitness, I bet you would have ran yourself into an injury.
Quite possibly, yeah. And a lot of people do. All 3 medalists from the 2012 men's 800 were injured in the 2013 season. It's not uncommon for that to happen.
Right. So maybe what the YouTube generation also doesn't know about you is that you were, and here's the quote from a great New York Times article, Team USA's official pain in the butt, the most outspoken, polarizing, and essential American track and field athlete of the past decade. So let's talk a little bit about how you waded into the controversy of the life of an Olympic athlete, a professional athlete, and how we have to deal with these unsavory forces that are trying to control you.
Yeah, I love that. Team USA's official pain in the butt. That was the best compliment I'd ever been paid, because Team USA needed a pain in the butt. They've been stealing, and they're still stealing money from the athletes. And I think, as I started, recognizing how money worked and where the money was coming from and how sponsorship dollars worked and how the governing bodies had been set up, I really just looked around, and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much money in this sport. And everyone was trying to tell me, oh, there's not enough money in track and field. There's billions, with a B, billions and billions of dollars in the sport of running and track and field. It just all goes to other people. The athletes get very little of it, and that's not right. The fact that Nike pays USATF $20 million a year, and a very, very, and that's for the right to put the Nike logo on Team USA. And yet they pay just a small, tiny fraction of that to athletes. I mean, come on. Max Siegel's salary, if you dig into the financials of USATF, it's just a joke. I mean, and I stopped talking about that because it doesn't really affect me anymore. But at the time, for 12 years, it affected me in a major, major way. And it pissed me off. And the only way I could deal with it was say something about it. And so for, the latter half of my career, I talked about it to anyone who wanted to talk about it, because I was, understanding where all the money was going, and it wasn't to the athletes.
Why do you think the athletes have not been able to band together as a force and try to advocate for fairness and for better compensation, because most of the athletes are struggling. Even athletes on the Olympic team are working at Home Depot, thanks to Home Depot for
Yeah.
that Olympic program, but it still's not right. And the other sports are escalating like crazy.
Well, you've got a couple things working against you there. First of all, the average lifespan of a pro runner might be 2 or 3 years, right? So you're cycling them so fast. I didn't even begin to realize how much money was being stolen from me until probably my 5th or 6th year as a pro. So you're cycling these athletes so fast, they don't have time to like realize what's being done to them. And then if they do actually last long enough, you've got a huge diversity on track, which is my favorite part about a track team, by the way, is just how diverse it is. But it's not really a team in the way that a baseball team's a team or a basketball team's a team, and they train together day in and day out for years at a time. Sometimes, a Team USA is thrown together last minute, weeks before a championship, and you've got people from different states, different socioeconomic backgrounds. Just the diversity that makes it so cool and wonderful is also kind of a hindrance when you're trying to unionize athletes. So it's not a real cohesive team in the way that baseball players are or basketball players are, and where people maybe come from similar socioeconomic backgrounds and can form these unions. It's just a real hodgepodge, which makes it for a beautiful, diverse team, but not necessarily the kind of team that can unite for collective bargaining with the powers that be.
Yeah, I noticed that in the sport of triathlon too. And I thought the biggest problem with trying to organize the athletes was everyone was too busy out there training. And then when push came to shove, and we had the similar battles to track and field where they're giving us uniforms to wear with other logos that are different and all that kind of stuff. And I remember having an intense session with a group of athletes that had qualified for the World Championships. And one of them stood up and said, I don't know about you guys, but all I care about is representing my country in this great competition. And there I noticed with that comment, everything falls apart if you throw in these these sparkly, dreamy things that are not directly associated with your economic opportunities or your economic well-being. And I think part of that's probably in play too, where for some reason the athletes maybe not focused on the economic consequences of their career, and they just want to compete, and they know they're never going to earn that much money, and so they check out of that part of their profession.
Well, and I think when you're a young athlete in an Olympic event, it's track and field, for example, but you could be anything, skating, curling, whatever it is. When you start your career at the age of 18 or 22, you're there for more intrinsic purpose of, I want to become an Olympian. Like, that's why I turned pro at the age of 22. I said, I'm going to put medical school on the back burner for 2 years because the 2008 games is only 2 years away. And I don't mind sacrificing those years to see if I can make a team. Money meant nothing to me. Like, all I needed was enough money to be able to train full time. But the financial gains meant absolutely nothing to me. I just wanted to see if I could become an Olympian. And after I stamped that ticket and added that little, OLY next to my name and was an Olympian, then it got to me like, oh, okay, like maybe now that I'm signing another 4-year deal and I can go on and train for the 2012 games, maybe now it's time for this young professional to try to figure out how to maximize my earnings. And that's when I really started thinking about the money of the whole thing, and the intrinsic value of making an Olympic team. That wasn't going to be the same as when I had made my first. Now it was, okay, this is my real pinnacle of my career. How do I maximize the amount of money that I can make, having made all these sacrifices? How do I make money now?
Do you think we have some potential for change in the future? Do you see anything hopeful? I know you're out of the game now, and like you said, you're not sticking a thorn in the side of the executives. But have we made some progress since your heyday when you were what were you doing, covering up the tattoos or something? Or they
Protesting
made
left
you
and
cover
right.
up the tattoo?
They made me cover up all my logos. It's just ridiculous what they do. But yes, I would say that there hasn't been much change. I'm actually, if there's a silver lining of COVID, it might be a massive total disruption of the Olympic cycle and the Olympic movement, right? For the first time in a century, the Olympic Games aren't taking place when they were supposed to take place, right? We're now calling Tokyo 2020 plus one. Who knows what kind of repercussions that'll have if it even takes place. Like, the whole system may go bankrupt and we have to start something new. I think that we need to completely demolish USATF and that particular business model and rebuild something that is, the way I like to describe it is, imagine if USGA was the only entity running golf. Like, it would be horrible. You need the USGA to run the grassroots, youth level type stuff, but then you need the PGA to run the professional side of that sport. So right now we have USATF, which does a good job at the youth level and does a good job like getting the word out and growing the sport of running, but it's just phenomenally bad at running professional track and field. And they just need to be stripped from that responsibility. And a professional entity like the PGA is to the USGA, we need that entity to lift the sport out of the 19th century or 20th century.
Yeah, good comparison. And those two, the PGA Tour and the USGA, butt heads annually at the US Open.
Right, they should butt heads. It's okay for that to happen.
Right. But the PGA Tour has become such a powerful force, and all the money that's flowing into the pockets of the professional players, they've done a great job.
They have. The PGA has done a wonderful job of enriching the players. We don't have that. So instead of an entity enriching the pro track and field runners, you have USATF, which treats them as indentured servants, essentially.
And that would be a great path for you a great challenge for you to tackle, but you're too busy with this run gum thing. So tell me about, I think this was during your career that you started getting these ideas. So I want to hear about the preneur part of the athletepreneur and how that all started.
Yeah. And I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And in fact, I had launched, another business with my coach at the time, Sam LaPre. We did a franchise here in Oregon, just, kind of cut our teeth a little bit in entrepreneurial business. But ultimately, I always knew I wanted to be in an industry called CPG, consumer packaged goods. I don't know anything about tech. I didn't like franchising. I love the idea of a packaged good that I could hand somebody something. So right now, let me grab this real quick. So, all right, for our listeners who can't see the screen, I've got a packet of Run Gum. And when people say, Nick, what do you do? I'm able to give them this packet of Run Gum. I say, this little packet of Run Gum here is just like an energy drink, but it's in gum form. Here, take this, have it, give it a try. I love being able to do that. So I had this idea for an energy gum. When I made the 2012 team, I had several energy companies sending me product. And I fell in love with one in particular. I won't name names. And I loved their energy blend. But drinking that sugary, heavy, acidic liquid and having that sloshing around in my stomach while I was running, it's the last thing an athlete wants, and they're also not highly portable. You had to keep them refrigerated. It's just a nightmare going through TSA. They get confiscated. I'm like, we need to create a new energy product that bypasses the GI tract. And so we were looking at sublingual absorption, which is 5 times faster than gastrointestinal absorption. So I'm looking at tinctures, I'm looking at lozenges, and ultimately we decided to go with chewing gum because it's fun, it tastes good, it's easy to manufacture, and it's large enough that it could hold the actives that I wanted in it. So caffeine, taurine, B vitamins, all compressed into this wonderful, tasty piece of chewing gum, and you absorb it very quick through sublingual and buccal absorption. So it's called Run Gum. It was designed by runners, for runners, but in the last 5 years, we found that anybody out living an active lifestyle loves this product. So you're running the kids around town, you're running errands, you're running into a meeting, or you're actually out running. Like, Run Gum is that boost in your back pocket for when you need it most.
Very nice pitch there.
Thanks. I've done it once or twice before. Yeah.
Yeah. We would do we would smash the caffeine pills and mix them in our water bottle.
Same thing, yeah.
It was just, it seems like a convenient little market segment that you guys have captured. But that's nice to have a great idea. I have 17 of them on my pad here. But then the execution, how did that go? I mean, this has been a big deal.
Yeah, I think, maybe the best move I ever made was, I had the idea, but like you said, ideas are a dime a dozen. I needed somebody that understood how to bring this to market. And I went to my business partner at the time. And again, we were doing franchising here in Oregon. And I said, I've got this idea for a CPG business and I just want to run it by you. And I just want to see what your reaction is. And I had a couple of his kids who I think were I want to say they were 16 and 19. So good demographics to test. I said, I want to take you guys out to dinner and run this idea by you. So I pitched them this idea of an energy chewing gum.
The kids too?
The kids too. And
that's rocking, dude. Give me
They lit up. Yeah. They're like, do you have any? Do you have any that I could buy? And I'm like, I don't have any yet. And maybe more importantly, my coach and business partner, Sam LaPre, he said, not only do I think it's a great idea, I want in. Like, how can we be 50-50 on this? You know, so to have my business partner light up, have the kids light up, I'm like, this is it. This is the product that I really want to bring to market.
Now,
And
Sam
he has
was he coaching at Willamette still?
he was a strength and conditioning and sprints coach at Willamette, and he and I just got along great. So when I turned pro, he kind of came along as a mentor and an assistant with OTC. And he and I have been best friends and business partners for 20 years now. But when I said that, when he said, I want in on this, like, I'm not just here to mentor you on this, but I want to be your business partner on this. You know, that changed everything, because he understood what it was going to take to bring this to market. And, you know, I would say in those early days, you know, he was just absolutely essential, from, you know, running payroll, hiring employees, finding real estate for us to build our first HQ. I mean, everything. He knew what needed to be done. And he said, Nick, you know, you are the face of this. I need you to continue to talk about it. You know, in every interview you can talk about it, get more earned media, run as fast as you can, show off the product. So I was really the marketing PR side of things, and he was really the financial operations side of things, and hired our COO, Nathan, who was also a co-founder. And that was probably the second best move we did. So it all worked out. But like you say, there's everybody has an idea. It's all in the execution. And if I'm going to, you know, kind of put a wet towel on everything, the most important part of that execution is the financial plan, right? If you don't have the money figured out, then how are you going to get this thing? So make sure before you start a business that you understand how that business is going to run. Businesses need money. That is their blood. Make sure it has enough blood to live for a certain amount of time to test that idea. And if I'm going to, you know, peel back the curtains on Run Gum, Sam and I came in 50-50, not just on, you know, ownership, but on also cash in. And so it was self-funded founders round. We both put in cash, and in our business model, we knew that we had enough cash to run the thing for 2 years. Even if we made $0, we had enough cash to run it for 2 years. And of course we made money along the way and reinvested that money, and the rest is history. But you just have to understand how the money works in your business model, or you are just one of those businesses that, you know, never really gets off the ground.
And I guess in your guys' case, bringing in other experts, not thinking that you know it all from being a track coach and Olympic runner.
Yeah, no one knows it all.
A good team assembled. Yeah.
Yeah, and literally no one knows it all. And any entrepreneur that's being handicapped by thinking they don't have enough knowledge, you don't need that much knowledge. The only knowledge I really think you need to know is what you're good at and what you're not good at. If you have that much knowledge, then you can just go hire all the other pieces, right? So like, I'm really bad with technology and I'm really bad with numbers, but I'm really good at marketing and PR. So we've let me be good at marketing PR, and we hired people to help us out with the numbers and the operations.
That's a smart guy right there, telling us what you're really bad at. No joke. I was just doing construction with my construction friend, and I don't know shit about any of it, but I'm smart enough to know I don't know how to work this nail gun. I ain't touching that until you show me. But, you know, I think most people get some sort of arrogance or blinders on and plunge into things that they're not really expert at, and think that they are just from their hubris or something.
Well, and there's two different sides of that spectrum, right? On the far side, the hubris side, I know everything. I don't even need to hire people. Like, I'm an expert at everything. That's a great way to run a business straight into the ground. On the other side is the self-doubt, which is one of the most cancerous things in an entrepreneur's mind, is I don't know anything, and I need to become an expert at all of these fields before I can get off the ground, right? That person will never, ever launch their business. So you want to be somewhere in the middle. You want to say, I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at. I don't need to be perfect to launch this business, but I just need to know, you know, as we scale, the pieces that are going to have to be put in place to make this machine work.
Well said. Yeah. And so somewhere along the line, you realized that maybe you and the camera were integral parts of building this business. That seems like the YouTube effort is a big part. You got these 1 million+ views of the videos, but tell me how that whole program got started and has taken off to the point where it seems like a major effort that you guys are making today. I mean, you have drones, so it's got to be a major effort.
Yeah, you got a drone, you double your production.
You're so big time with the drone. Yeah.
Well, you know, I will credit our COO, Nathan, who is, you know, a lot hipper than I am and understands trends. And he's like, why don't you have a YouTube channel? I'm like, oh, I don't have funny cat videos to post. He's like, that's not really what YouTube is anymore. You know, and I wasn't a consumer of YouTube content, so I didn't understand the platform. And then when I started, you know, watching and seeing how creators were creating these wonderful channels in various niches, I'm like, yeah, maybe I could do this. I have a lot of knowledge from 20 years as a competitive runner. Maybe I can use my YouTube video to, one, pass some of that knowledge on, and two, entertain people, because I like doing that as well. And so it started very slow. I think we started off, you know, with a couple hundred subscribers, and, you know, over a course of a year, we got to maybe like 8,000 subscribers, and then I got burnt out and took a little break. But I always knew there was something powerful there and something that I really wanted to be good at. But again, understanding what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. I'm really bad at editing video. Like, I'm really good in front of the camera. Like, I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm good in front of the camera, but I'm so bad behind the camera, and I'm really bad at editing. So we hired somebody, and as soon as we hired Ryan, our videographer, it just took off like a rocket ship. Now you've got the guy in front of the camera partnered with the guy behind the camera, and they're both experts at what they do. And you've got a really good video. And, you know, this time, you know, right before we hired Ryan, I think I was at like 18,000 subscribers. It was maybe like 18 months ago, you know, and now we're closing in on 300,000 subscribers, and we have 10 videos over 1 million views. So again, just understand where your limitations are. I didn't have to have everything figured out to launch, right? In the YouTube business, I could start with my cell phone and iMovie, and they would be ugly and bad, but I could then scale it. And so as we started to scale the channel, Nathan and I looked at each other and said, well, if this channel is going to go anywhere, we need to like invest in a videographer. So it doesn't have to be perfect to start, but if you want to find success, really recognize, you know, your limitations, and then, you know, address that with employees.
So you keeping full speed ahead in that direction, and
Yeah,
what else do you have going on for the future?
You know, it's funny. I've got the personality that's always like, where can we be better, right? Which is, you know, it's a great way to be successful. It's kind of a bad way to be happy, to find true happiness. My mom always calls me a malcontent, because no matter how much success I have, I'm like, where can we be better? Like, where can I invest my time and energy to be more successful? And it's true. Like, YouTube has been phenomenally successful for us in just the last year. And that's where I'm really passionate right now. And it's where I want to double down my efforts. At the same time, we've got, you know, a multi-million-dollar business here with Run Gum that we've got to keep running. So trying to just recognize my own limitations there. I wonder, you know, how far I can take this company as the CEO, and if there is going to come a time in the near future where we need to, you know, look to be acquired and possibly be acquired, you know, sell a controlling interest and let somebody who's an expert at scaling a CPG company take this to its true potential, which I really believe it could be $1 billion company. I just don't know if I'm the guy to do that. Those are questions that I've been asking myself lately. It's kind of a crossroads for any entrepreneur to know when the right time to get out is. I don't think we're there yet. I think there's so much low-hanging fruit for us to pick, and I know how to pick that fruit. But, you know, any entrepreneur that you know has found some success has to ask, like, well, how long is this the right place for me?
Yeah, well said. You got to keep thinking about that every single day, probably, and just checking in with your vision.
Absolutely.
What do you think of the track scene these days? Are you a big fan? Are you kind of stepped aside and more into, you're a big fan of YouTube now, and you consume YouTube hosts instead of Golden League, or what?
Well, I mean, for the most part, track and field doesn't exist at this moment, right? Like, we saw
some world records this year, man.
We did.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the same, right? It wasn't the same as an Olympic season. It wasn't the same as a championship season. It was time trialing. And again, as a guy who's not a big time trialer, I don't get excited about that much. Like, I get excited about championship racing. So we didn't have that this year, not at the US level, not at the international level. And so for me, this was kind of just like a holding pattern year. And we're going to hopefully be able to resurrect that side of the sport in 2021. But I still love watching championship races. I'm not going to tune into a Diamond League. I'm not going to tune into random meet at Mills. I don't like time trialing. It's not fun for me to watch a bunch of people chase times with rabbits. I want to see who periodized their season right, who can handle the do or die moment of a championship final round. That's what I want to see. So as soon as that resumes, I will absolutely be at the Olympic trials if they take place and I'm allowed to go. I don't know if they're going to have spectators. We'll find out.
They're going to block your hat logo.
Oh yeah. No, I'm more mentioning if they can have spectators due to the pandemic. But
oh yeah, that too.
I still think there is nothing more exciting than a championship track and field race, and I'll watch those forever. But yeah, I'm not gonna waste time watching a time trial because it just doesn't make me that excited. I did get excited about that 5K world record. I mean, a world record's still a world record, but I would rather see, you know, a U.S. championship 5K would get me probably more excited than watching that 5K world record.
Yeah, it's all great entertainment, and I know Kipchoge's orchestrated effort to run the 159 was criticized by a lot of purists, but I'm like, hey, I like watching a pack kicking in a championship marathon, but I also was fascinated to watch this guy with all his help run a 159 marathon.
But they're almost two different sports, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
they're two. It's like watching doubles in tennis versus singles. Like it's still tennis. It's just two different games. So like watching someone time trial like Kipchoge is hugely inspirational. Watching someone set a world record in a time trial is hugely inspirational, but for a way different reason than when I'm inspired by watching the final of a championship race.
Yeah, no, you got a lot of young fans that are runners, and it sounds like you gave a great tip earlier in the show when you were talking about that balanced lifestyle and being a fraternity guy in college rather than a freaky runner guy, you know, looking over his training logs on Saturday night instead of having fun. So maybe we could part with some great words of wisdom for young athletes that are in your sport and looking to excel and continue to improve and also enjoy themselves.
Well, just looking back on my own career, and every athlete beats to a different drum, so I'm not going to say that what works for me is going to work for somebody else, but if I'm speaking in generalizations, prep athletes need to focus on having fun, you know, period, right? Like if you're in high school, sport should be fun. If you're not having fun, you know, why are you doing it? And even though there were parts of track and field and cross country that I didn't like, overall, I was having a lot of fun, you know? In college, this is where you're really going to find out where you're going to be successful. And so, you know, the fun maybe comes down a little bit as you dial up your focus. There's still going to be a lot of fun, but this is your chance to really put a lot of time and energy into something, whether it's your academics or your athletics, and find out just how great you can be. And then as you get kicked out of that safety nest that is college, you know, you're going to go out to the real world and you're going to take wherever you found your success and then really try to scale it. So I would say me personally, I dialed up my level of focus and my you know, willingness to invest myself into the sport. Maybe I was 50% focused in high school, 75% focused in college, and, you know, darn near 100% focused as a pro. But throughout it all, even at my highest level of focus as a pro, I still knew when to stop and press the reset button at the end of a season and you know, not wear myself into a ground. If I leave one thing out there, because I think there's a lot of people that'll identify with this, I tell kids at the end of a season, make sure you take some time off. You know, as a pro, I would take 6 weeks off at the end of a season. As a high school student, I always recommend, you know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks off, high school and college. And I get these kids, I'm not going to take any days off because I'm dedicated to my sport. I'm like, if you were really dedicated, you would take time off. It's not hard to run every day. That's not hard. The hard thing to do is to listen to your body, to periodize your training, to peak at the right time. That is really, really hard to do. Anyone can just be stubborn enough to lace up their trainers and run every day. It's not hard. The hard thing to do is to peak at a championship race year in and year out. That's hard.
Yeah, I mean, you can't reach those highs until you have the balance and the lows. You know, Julio Jones, the NFL wide receiver,
Yeah,
I asked him about his off-season training strategies and things that he does. He says, I don't do anything, man, except for I eat healthy and take care of my body and rest, because you're coming back pretty soon with an incredibly intense NFL season, getting pounded and
absolutely.
preparing in training camp. Great stuff.
I always wanted to get to that point after I knew when it was time to start training again. And some years it only took 2 weeks. Some years it took 4. Some years it took 6 weeks after a season. I wanted to look down and just be like, oh man, I'm out of shape. Like I want to go run so bad. Like I'm dying to go for a run because I miss being fit and I miss looking down and just, you know, being proud of my body. Like once I got to that point where I'm like calling coach, I'm like, can I start training now? Like that's when I knew it was time to really, you know, start periodizing another season.
That's beautiful. I love that.
But that doesn't mean I went out. Yeah, that doesn't mean I went out and hammered a 14 miler. Like my first couple runs back might be like a 15-minute jog. or, maybe a 4-mile long run, to try to slowly start shedding that weight and building the momentum back into a long season, which might be a 9-month training cycle.
Nick wants to look down and not see his toes. You know, the obesity test, if you stand there in the doctor's office, you can't see your
You can't see
toes,
your
you've got
toes.
an
That's a bad
issue, man.
sign. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man, I appreciate your time so much. Your story is so inspiring. What's next on YouTube? You got a crazy athletic goal that you're gonna unleash pretty soon?
No, because again, like it's fun with fitness, right? It's not necessarily like misery, although I did ride a 100-miler the other day for a YouTube video. That was pretty fun. My very first 100-miler. That was really a good accomplishment. But no, I drop a video every single week on my channel, Nick Symmonds. Sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're educational, sometimes they're inspirational. But you'll get a new video every single week. And, I think we're going to hit about 300,000 subscribers before the end of the year. My big audacious goal for 2021 is to get to 1 million subscribers. And I'm going to have to pull out all the tricks to get it done. But I think it's a really good goal. It's a goal I'm really passionate about.
Love it. Keep up the great work. Nick Symmonds, everybody. Thanks for listening. Da, 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 da.